Welcome back, everybody, to the Insightful Podcast. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Today, I am joined by a special guest, Mario. Mario, how you doing today?
What's going on, everyone? Hey, Ant.
For sure. So, bro, let's start by you introducing yourself and kind of explaining who you are and what you do.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Mario. I'm the founder of Attilis Apparel, a Christian clothing gym brand. Simple. Yeah.
Simple, right to the point. Okay, bro, so I want you to get into like the details of how did you start Attilis Apparel? Where did the idea come
Hmm.
from? And how did you execute the idea once you had it in your mind?
So I started this brand in October 2022 as actually a stoicism brand. It wasn't even a Christianity brand at first. So I wanted to start this brand as a stoicism gym, like esoteric, like cool brand, making clothes with statues on them, stuff like that.
Yeah,
However, as I got closer to Christ, I didn't feel comfortable having a stoicism brand. Stoicism in itself is a beautiful thing, but for me to just because, for example, my first like hit piece was
hmm,
the Fortune Favors the Bold hoodie, which had Perseus and Medusa on it, which is cool. That's awesome. But I didn't feel comfortable promoting that and just that. Does that make sense?
for sure.
Yeah. So a year went by. October 2023 is when I really got closer to Christ, and I changed the brand into a Christianity brand when I released the Crusader hoodie. It was more of it was more of a personal thing that became a something that I shifted into the business because I wanted to glorify God through the business instead of being personally for Christ, but then my brand was representing something else. If
Yeah,
that makes sense. But when you
for
have
sure.
Christianity and Stoicism together, it's a beautiful thing. But if you're worshiping God here, but then you're promoting Greek mythology here or whatever, then
Yeah,
for me it wasn't comfortable, right?
100%. Yeah, so walk me through that. How did your faith journey come about? Like, were you someone that grew
Mm.
up faithful and maybe like lost that and then it came back to you? How did that look for you?
So I was raised Catholic, Italian Catholic in New York. I was surrounded by Catholics, but I would say now maybe I was a lukewarm, right?
Yeah,
When COVID started, that's when I began to get curious and I started picking up my Bible and reading it more often. I got a lot closer to Christ, but then it kind of veered off a little bit,
hmm,
right? COVID was what, 2020?
yeah, 2020 to like 2022.
2020, 2022. In 2023, so I started the brand 2022. I was still like a lukewarm. 2023, so actually just to rewind a little bit, before I was full-time Attilis Apparel, I was working on the brand full-time. I was
Hmm.
actually a professional soccer player, believe it or
Oh
not.
wow.
Yeah, I don't really mention that, but in New York, it wasn't like a crazy thing. I was like third division, third, fourth division, but it was still like contract and it was a serious thing. And then, with the possibility of moving up. So that was the
Yeah.
whole, right? So,
Was it like playing in the MLS was like your dream or it's somewhere overseas in Europe?
oh my God, dude, I had a few trips to Europe for trials and stuff, but it didn't work out. I went to Cyprus, Spain, Italy. Well, they worked out, but it didn't work out long term
Hmm.
because of visa stuff and stuff like that. So I said, okay, let's focus on here. The whole thing's a little complicated. It's like some teams can't have more than like three or four foreign players. It's a whole thing.
I
But
see.
anyway, so I was focusing on the MLS, and it's when you look at the whole thing, like step by step, fourth division, third division, second, and first. It's pretty simple, really. You have to know people and you have to play well. So the team I was on at the time was I don't know if I should say it, but whatever. FSA Fox, a team in upstate, right? So I live in the city,
Hmm.
New York, right? To drive to upstate takes about 2 hours. So I would drive there and back 3 or 4 times a week.
Damn.
Yeah, I was really serious about it. It was a
Yeah.
serious thing, you know. I mean, I had a contract in place, so it was I had to. So 2023, my dad hurt his shoulder at work, right? Because he does construction, right? He hurt his shoulder, and at the same time, my contract had ended, and I was supposed to renew it, right? So instead of renewing it, my dad was like really down bad, like with the shoulder. So I kind of wrapped it up, and I started helping him full time. So
Yeah,
that door closed completely. It was like
I
it
see.
was a major shift at the time, right?
What made you get into business instead of, I guess, like continuing working construction?
Oh no, I still do that. I still bounce back and forth.
Oh, okay,
At the
nice.
time, yeah. At the time, I was more full time, but I was so heartbroken of because I couldn't play soccer anymore.
Hmm.
That's when I got really close to Christ because I was actually, I was suffering. It was a struggle, and
Yeah,
through suffering, I got closer to Christ. And around that time is when I changed the brand to a Christianity brand. It was around that time because I got closer and I said, you know what? I want everything to glorify him. I want everything to represent him because he helped me out because it was such a not to get like super vulnerable or anything, but it was a heartbreaking experience because I had worked all these years to for this point, and I was in my career, in my soccer career, I was actually doing really well. So I was like, okay, this next year might be a breakthrough in some way.
yeah,
So I had to drop all that. I had to help my dad, which I don't regret at all. I mean, anything for the family. I'm really close to my family, so in a heartbeat, I dropped it. But at the same time, obviously, you're still a little heartbroken by the whole situation. And that's when I reached out to Christ and I got closer to Christ because nothing else was helping, you
yeah.
know. And it was a little bit of a struggle. The job itself is hard. It's wood floor, installing wood floor.
Like
It's a
laminate
whole
and
thing.
stuff.
Yeah. What's up?
Is it like laminate?
No, hardwood.
Oh,
Both.
hardwood.
It could be both
Both.
depending on the job.
I
You know,
see. Yeah,
long hours. It's a private company, and it was a little bit of struggle, and I need some adjustments. So I got closer to Christ during that time, and that's when I shifted over the brand from just stoicism to now Christianity full time.
yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, so that's amazing, bro. It's kind of like your brand goes where you kind of go. So like you
Yeah.
developed in a certain way and then the brand changed with that. So that's amazing, bro.
Thank you. Because essentially, the brand is an extension of you.
Mhm.
When you have this brand, it's an extension of you. That's why the most authentic, like if you think about it, the most authentic brands, if you look at the owner, it's the same. I mean, obviously, this is an obvious thing, but the brand and the owner have the same values.
Yeah.
It can't be faked. So that's why exactly I changed the brand to Christianity because I became a more devout Christian, but my brand was just stoicism. I didn't feel comfortable creating designs that had Perseus and Medusa on it or Poseidon. I mean, they're cool. You don't have to worship them, but I just didn't want that to represent the company,
Exactly.
right? So I mean it's just in essence it's an extension of the owner. That's why
Yeah.
you can't give the company someone else to run for you. You have to be full time. So when I was working construction full time, I was full time construction, and then I was also full time brand owner. I would post TikToks like in between lunch and rush home to pack orders and ship them out before the post office closed. That whole year, 2023, 2024 was hustle. I mean, even now, but now I manage the time a little bit better. But back then it was crazy. 2023 from September to December was insane. Insane.
Let me ask you, bro. So when you made that switch to Christianity,
Yeah.
did the business boom? Like was it right away kind of like instant or how long did it take for you to start getting like a good amount of orders where you had to start managing your time better?
That's a good question. So I changed it first, and then it's so funny because I changed it first, and then I designed the Crusader hoodie.
Mhm.
I designed that after I changed it, but I forget if I changed the brand like publicly or it was more of a mental thing. Like, okay, this brand is going to be this now, and I'm going to establish this by designing the next piece to be a Christian piece.
Yeah.
I forgot exactly how the story went, but it was definitely after. So when I released the Crusader hoodie, I posted a TikTok of Baldwin at the same time because because I learned about King Baldwin first, and then I designed the Crusader hoodie. So
Yeah.
I was posting King Baldwin TikToks on TikTok, and a few of them blew up. So that really, ramped things up. But that whole time was a blessing and a struggle at the same time because manufacturer messed up one of the hoodies because I had the
Mm-hmm.
black, white, and the blue. So she sent me the samples back with the cross on the hood.
Yeah.
It was like instead of 2 inches by 2 inches, how it is now, it was 4 by 4.
So it's like way bigger.
Way big. It was so ugly, dude. I'll send you a picture after this. It was horrible. It was
Yeah.
just anyway. And then the blue one came back a different shade of blue. But the thing is, I opened up a pre-order when I dropped it. I already had like at the time 700 orders.
Wow.
I didn't have a sample yet though, because the opportunity was there. The TikToks blew up, and I didn't have samples for these hoodies yet. I was just testing the market. I designed them and I just posted them, but I didn't have a sample. I was
Yeah.
just posting mock-ups. Back then. Now I do things a little bit differently, but back then I was still kind of new to the game.
Exactly.
So the samples came back messed up, and I had 700 orders waiting.
Holy.
Yeah, dude. So what I did, there was one time, so the blue hoodie came back, and it was a little bit, it was a different shade. So fighting with my manufacturer to get it right, whatever. At the same time, I'm trying to be the best customer service agent by emailing everyone, sorry for the long wait, blah, blah, blah. This is the situation. Excuse me. So then finally, a second set of the samples come. The cross is good, but the blue hoodie is still a different shade. But it's closer to what the mock-up was, but it's still a different shade. So I remember I sat in my house and I emailed maybe like 400 or 500 customers who ordered the blue. Emailed one by one because I couldn't do like the mass email sending. So
Yeah.
one by one, it took me like 5-6 hours to copy paste the email and then write the message. Listen, unfortunately, the blue came back a different color. Would you like to refund, exchange for a different color, or just keep it?
Yeah.
So that whole time, balancing everything was insane. But it was fun.
I look at those situations, bro. It's like almost like that kind of stress is a good kind of stress. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's some brands that would struggle to get 700 orders, but you had the 700 orders and it was more about the stress of fulfilling them and making sure the customer was happy. So sometimes I feel like that's better than not having any orders, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've been on both sides of that spectrum, dude. And
Yeah.
it's definitely better to have the problem with 700 orders than the problem without. Because at least with the problem with 700 orders is that you obviously have 700 orders and you could pivot from there. But if you don't, if you're a brand and if something's not clicking, it's a little bit harder to figure that out.
Yeah.
Especially because I work on this brand alone. I'm by myself. So every little aspect of it you have to be very careful with, and you have to make
Mhm.
sure you understand fully, right? So if something is not working, it's hard to figure out what's not working because it literally could be anything. It could be
Exactly.
anything. Copy on your website, uh, the setup that your website setup, your Instagram, your ads. It could be anything. The material, the reviews. So that. But unfortunately, that's the struggle with brands, and especially a lot of new brands now. But once they get over that and they build some trust, it's a little bit easier to understand the language of the brand world, if that makes sense.
Makes sense for sure. So, where did you get all your business knowledge from? Was it something that was just trial and error, or you have that background in the construction, I guess?
I'd say a little bit of both, because you could have the background, right? Because a lot of people have the background, but then
Mm-hmm.
when you throw them in the pit and see how they do, it's a 50-50, if that makes sense. It's 100% better to be in the pit and come out strong, if that makes sense. It's better to start a business and to be in it, to experience it and learn from trial and error. But when you have both, it's also good. I mean, I have both because of the construction and then because I threw myself in it.
Yeah.
And I also went to business school, but it was around COVID and, I couldn't go. I had to do online. So I think honestly, the business school, it's a little bit of a not a hoax, not a hoax. I don't want to say hoax, but it's way better to be in the fire, trial and error of your own business to really learn how the business has to run than learning from a textbook. You have to be in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree, bro. So basically, like last year, I spent the whole year trying different
Right.
business models and nothing was working, and just learning through myself. And then
Mm.
this year I got a mentor, and because of my mentor, like business has like exploded in the sense of I've made so much progress in such a short amount of time, and it's
Amazing.
because I'm seeing it firsthand. And
Hmm.
that's why I think like sometimes like I'm not hating on business school or whatever, but it's just theory at the end of the day. It's like you said, like you decided to create a clothing brand, you started it, you started promoting it immediately, whatever the case may be, and you're able to learn as it goes. With theory, there's no like actual application, so you
Hmm.
can't see if this one thing works or if it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Exactly. 100%.
So
And it's
yeah,
way better to be in the fire, you know, not to use that metaphor like crazy, but it's better to be in the struggle, for lack of a better word, to understand exactly how it works. Because,
yeah,
like you said, it's just school is just theory,
mm-hmm,
But the same, like when you look at the situations, they might not always apply accordingly to every brand. It's better to
yep,
be in there and learn how to manage it by yourself and firsthand, if that makes sense, right?
yeah.
That's great. Congratulations on the
Thank
mentor and on the business.
Thank you, bro. And
Hmm.
I even look at it like, for example, pressure, like real life pressure, because when you're in school, they might teach you a certain aspect of what might happen in business. But if you're not involved in it like you were, having 700 orders and having to respond to 500 people, you don't have any real pressure. Like you had real pressure. So even that aspect, like you coming out of that, you already deal with pressure like in a better way because you experienced it firsthand, which I feel like through theory, you can't what's the word? You can't make that unless it's
Hmm.
real, unless that pressure is real.
100%. And they can't teach you that because you'll never know if that situation was so specific and so random
Mm-hmm.
that you can't possibly write it down and teach it unless you've seen it happen. Like I've seen it happen. I could write it down and be like, this is how you're supposed to manage the customer service side and
Yep.
manufacturers and stuff like that. So I mean, it's interesting. I learn something new every day with this business. It's incredible. And I don't know if I mentioned how I came up with the name. You might find this interesting.
Yeah, say it, bro. I actually have no idea.
So Attilis Apparel, right? Who's Attilis, right?
Yeah, I
Attilis.
don't know.
So, so when I started the brand, right? I started as the stoicism. So I'm Italian. So
Yep.
I'm very, connected with the Roman side, Roman Empire, stuff like that. I'm very interested in the Roman Empire. So I was looking up gladiator names at the time, and I came across this guy called Marcus Attilius. Apparently, he was captured as a slave and thrown into the Colosseum to fight the gladiators. Right? At first he was a rookie gladiator. No one knew his name. He had zero fights. Very inexperienced. His first fight, I'm pretty sure, was a veteran gladiator. I forget his name. His name's escaping me right now, but he was a veteran. He had a lot of kills under his belt. He was a champion. Attilius slaughtered him. Crowd went wild. So, long story short, he goes on to winning more battles and becomes the champion. So it's the
Yeah.
underdog turning into the hero. That story, and I was inspired by that because when you start a brand, that's kind of the story. I mean, everyone goes through that underdog into the hero with whatever fitness, business, relationships, anything. You start as the rookie.
Yeah, the
Eventually, you
nobody.
you, you persevere and you become one of the greats if you stick with it. So I was inspired by that. So I was like, let me take his name, Attilius Apparel, and that's how I formed it.
That's amazing, bro. I
Yeah,
actually love that, man.
thank you,
That's such
thank
a
you.
great story. So my next question for you, bro, is how has faith helped you through this business journey? Because obviously with business, there's many ups and downs, like you
Mhm.
have just been explaining. Like, in those moments where you're on that down and you turn to God, how has that helped you maybe since before, being closer to God and dealing with issues in your life?
Right. So I think I would panic a lot more internally if things didn't go my way, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I got closer to God, I've realized that the plan is not mine. It's not my plan, it's his plan. So whatever's going on is according to his will. So it brought a lot of what's the word? Calm into my life, calmness, because I know I could trust his plan. If a drop worked out or it didn't work out, I knew that in the end, the result of that drop, for example, would be better than the counter. If that makes sense. If a drop didn't do well, then later on it will do better. Maybe I'll learn something
Yeah.
according to his plan. It just brought a lot of trust. I could trust God. I have more faith. As I got closer, I have more faith in terms of how this business works out. I mean, of course, I still calculate everything, but once I'm done and I send it out or I release a drop, it's out of my hands. It's whatever. So whatever he does, whether at the time I might think it's good or it's bad, if a drop does well, it doesn't do well, I can always trust him. That's for the better. So a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith.
And I think that's what people lack when they don't
Mm.
have God in their life, is that kind of calmness and peace, like you're saying. Because at the end of the day, like, all you can control is the work you put into something, and what comes of it is in God's hands, like you're saying. So I feel like that's like a huge way to keep yourself centered in life, with having that faith in God, because you could do work, you could build the businesses, you could try to build a physique, whatever it might be. You could try to have a relationship with someone and do the best that you can, but it's all in God's plan of what the outcome's going to be. And that brings you a lot of peace, I feel like, when you don't have that. Because there was a point in my life where I didn't have that, and I
Mm.
just know it's like a way worse way to live, you know?
Yeah, 100%. You're just a different person without it, you know? And another thing is humbleness. I've become as the brand has become more successful, I've become more humble, which it doesn't seem like a big thing to take into consideration, but it really is. Humbleness is also the key to understanding what the next step is.
Hmm.
Because when I had those 700 orders, I'm not gonna lie, it got to my head a little bit. I'm gonna be real. It got to my head a little bit because it was like all of a sudden 700. This is it. I made it. Whatever. But after that was over, 2 or 3 months after that, it was quiet. Very small amount of sales. It wasn't a big deal, but I was struggling. I was like, where do I go from here? You
Yeah.
know. So when you're not humble, you tend to forget God. If you have a sudden success and you let it get to your head, you start to think, oh, this is my work. This is my doing. You start to act like you're the big shot and you forget God. You forget who actually gave you that blessing. So with success and yeah, with every win and success, it's always remind yourself to stay humble. That's what I've been doing lately. Like the past 6 months, I've been really trying hard to stay humble. If a drop does really well, or something works, I get a nice payout, whatever, or something works out, I keep it cool. I don't let it get to my head at all. It's as if nothing happened. I thank God. The most important thing is I thank God in the moment that it's happened, but I don't let it get to my head and think I'm a big shot because at the end of the day, he gave me that. He gave me this opportunity, he gave me that blessing, that sale. You know, all I did was press a few buttons or
Hmm.
just sketch something, but he made it resonate with people. You know what I'm trying to say? Like even when I film a TikTok, all I do is open my mouth and I kind of let whatever thoughts he gives me, that's what I speak.
Yeah.
Well, just honestly give it all to him. Everything, every success, and be humble. And also have the right intentions when you're striving for success. It's very easy to think about girls and money and this and this and that. You have to really narrow down your intentions for why you want to be successful. If you want to create generational wealth to provide for your family, that's a very honest thing to do.
Hmm.
Once you start thinking of how many clubs you could go to and how many girls, what are this and that, that's when your mindset shifts and you tend to become less humble, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I know it's a lot, but if you listen to this again, it all makes sense.
Yeah,
That's exactly
because
what I've been experiencing. I'm just telling you firsthand throughout the year.
exactly. And that's it, bro, is that a lot of people, when they chase success, they're chasing validation. They want to
Mhm.
feel important. They want to feel known. They want to, be loved by others. But if you kind of just focus on like you say, like glorifying God through your work, you'll always stay centered. You won't get full of yourself and you'll be able to like keep pushing forward. Because a lot of people, it's like you said, they get a little bit of success. They think they're the man or
Mhm.
whatever it might be, and then that kind of slows them down in the future because when that success doesn't come, then it eats them alive. Oh, why isn't it happening? you know
100%. 110%. That's exactly what I went through after those 700 orders. I felt like the big man, and then 2 3 months later, it was a struggle to have a drop be successful. It was actually more, maybe like 4 months, 4 months, 4 or 5 months. I was struggling with trying to get it back up, get the momentum. And at the time, my intentions were not, no, I wouldn't say my intentions were off, maybe a little bit off. My intentions were a little bit off, and I wasn't humble when I had the success. So
yeah,
in my opinion, I think God just wanted to test me.
yeah.
And once he saw that I wasn't really ready for it, then he was like, "All right, you know, settle down, sit down, bro." But
And that's
as you mature, then success comes because you matured everything, your mindset, mentality.
I think that's the best way to put it, bro. I think God puts you in those situations where you see a lot of growth and success, and He's testing to see how your character will be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I feel like it's so important to not get successful very quickly because that doesn't build your character. Building your character is like, for example, my mentor, he's been at a business for 20 years and it's been growing steadily for 20 years. And now he's in a really good position and it's built his character, it's built
Mm-hmm.
his personality. And I think that's the best way to achieve success, bro, because the people that get success very quickly, it's like what we're saying, it's the same thing. It goes to their head and then they don't know how to act and they kind of forget where they came from.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And you appreciate it more. You're more grateful for when it
Yeah,
finally comes. If you have it right away, I think that's what happened with me. When I had the 700 orders, I designed a hoodie. I just posted a few TikToks. It wasn't like a crazy, stretched out journey. I posted a few TikToks, whatever, and they just blew up. And then I opened up the pre-order, and that was it. It was like, oh my god.
yeah.
So I get it. Now looking back after a year, I see a little bit more clearly the whole plan, the whole situation. But yeah, 20 years, right, with your mentor.
Yeah, like in the
Yeah.
business realm.
What does he do?
So he has like a successful cleaning business
Hmm.
and he also does music as well.
That's cool, man. That's cool. And
Yeah.
he probably really appreciates the success that after 20-year journey.
Yeah, because it's like, bro, he's been hustling since he was
Mm.
my age, right? So when to see the fruits of your labor, like after all that
Yeah.
work, that's when it feels the best, bro. And I think you can't take that away from anyone, bro.
You can't fake that feeling either.
Yes.
Yeah, that feeling, you have to go through the struggle and then finally come out on the other side. That's when you really get those tears of joy feeling, that feeling. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, bro. It just feels
That
so
victory.
rewarding.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. When you really work towards something, when you really hustle, that's when you really appreciate the success that comes after that. If you just get it right away, it's like, all right, cool. What more can I do?
Exactly.
You don't let it sink in. You don't sit down and really think about, wow, thank you, Lord. You know?
Yeah, like damn, I've been wanting this one thing for so long and it's
Mm.
finally happened. You can't help but be grateful. But if
Mhm.
it happens after a week of a bit of work, you don't really feel grateful because you don't realize the weight of what you did. You know what I mean?
You haven't battled long enough. You haven't been in the struggle and really suffered to achieve it. That's what everything. I've been feeling that my whole life, especially with soccer, training every day in the cold, in the snow, in the rain, in the heat, to play that game on the weekend and to win, to give it your all. You know, This applies to everything. This doesn't just apply to business, is what I'm saying. Like this could apply to everything you're going after.
Yeah.
Fitness, career, business, sports, anything. It's that mentality. It applies to everything. True suffering and true struggle leads to genuine victory. A genuine, real victory, something that cannot be faked. Like real success, not fake success.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
100%, bro. Very well said. I feel like a lot of people resonate with what you've been through over the past year
Mm.
because they might be going through it as well this current moment, and you're kind of the light out of that, mindset or perspective that you once had. So I think it's very important that you shared that.
I appreciate that. Thanks for noticing.
For sure, bro. So my next question for you is, how do you go about picking people that you want to sponsor for the brand, and
Mm.
what is kind of like a criteria you set in your mind? Because maybe someone's listening right now that wants to be a part of a brand and they don't know how to kind of get noticed or, kind of align themselves with a brand that fits them.
Absolutely. So what I do when I look for a sponsor or an athlete is you know, I look up what my brand is, so Christian Fitness, and I just go through the profiles. And when I find somebody that's interesting, I look at their profile, Instagram, TikTok, whatever they have available, and I just see if their content aligns with what Attilis represents,
Hmm.
right? If I see that they're Christian, they're into fitness, and they glorify him through fitness, and their audience is not attractive, but their audience resonates with that, then I would send a message out. I don't just send a message to any fitness influencer because there's some that aren't Christian.
Yeah,
I learned that the hard way a while back when I would just send out to anybody I thought was cool or whatever, and some got back to me, and we were working together for a little bit, but sales didn't come, the audience didn't resonate, and then they just kind of like fell off. It just didn't work out, right? And I hate when that happens because it's like you put so much time and energy into one thing and it just doesn't work out. But at the same time, in hindsight, God's plan, like I mentioned before,
exactly.
me and that person can never work with the brand. Two different audiences. It doesn't align. So right now, what I do is I really do a little bit more thorough investigation and calculate how I message. I don't just send it to anyone. I really try to make sure that their values align with the brand's values and my values, right? And I don't look at it more of how many sales they could get me, because at the end of the day, I know that's the important thing in business, but it's not everything.
Hmm.
You want to really, when you have a brand, you really want to build a genuine audience. The community is more important than that quick sale. A community will always come back, and it's a nice thing to have a community that's inspired by the values of the brand, right? And a brand especially that points to God instead of something else.
Yeah,
That's way better to cultivate than to just make a quick sale, because that sale would come and go. The money that comes in will get spent somewhere else. I mean, it also, but I'm not trying to say that sales aren't important. They are important, but to make a quick sale with someone who's not aligned with the brand and will never be a part of the community is kind of a waste. You want
exactly.
someone that buys to be in love with the community and in the community to help build and help inspire others. So I look for people who can help to achieve that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Because you could get anyone if you wanted to, in the sense that they could have a million followers. But if their page and what they post has absolutely nothing to do with Christianity and maybe even fitness,
Mm.
what's the point, right? It's like you're saying, yeah, they'll probably get some sales because they have such a big audience, but it does not align with what you're trying to push.
Yeah, and those sales will just be one-time sales, and they won't be in the community,
Yeah,
if that makes sense. They'll come and go. They might think the design is fire, and that's why they buy, but they won't be in love with the values of the brand and what the brand stands for, which in my opinion is most important. So the way I hire athletes is I make sure that they align with the values, and they can inspire the audience and vice versa because it's a community.
Yeah.
You know, it's one big group chat.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it, bro. One big group
Okay?
chat. Yeah. 100%. All right, bro. My next question for you is, what is your best advice to someone who is starting a clothing brand, and how can they separate themselves from the competition?
That's a good one. Okay, so first question was how can they start one?
Yeah, so what is your best advice to someone
Let's see.
starting? And then how can they separate themselves?
In terms of something tangible, right?
Yes, like I guess what is your best advice to get their clothing brand off the ground and start making sales?
All right. So you're like I said, to achieve true success, it's better to stay away from the quick sales right away that
Hmm.
that mean nothing. It's better to cultivate an audience. So if I were to go back in time 2 years ago and tell my past self how to better start up this brand, I would say, okay, start with Instagram and TikTok. Pick first of all, pick a name that doesn't have apparel in it. I know mine does, but I'm working to change that. But pick something that it doesn't come it's not noticeable that it's a clothing brand. You don't really want this to be just a clothing brand. You want this to be a lifestyle brand, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. I'll get to a better point after this. When you pick your niche, first pick your niche. If you're going to be Christian, be Christian. If you're going to be like New York City, Wall Street type of stuff, luxury wear, pick a niche, whatever, and post on Instagram and TikTok as if you're like a Pinterest. Pinterest has the aesthetics, stuff like
Yeah.
that. You don't even have to. You don't even have to have a sample of any clothing yet. Just create a community on Instagram or TikTok that represents the values you're gonna achieve with the brand. So if let's say it's let's say 1980s casual luxury wear, Wall Street, New York. The suit and tie or like
Yeah.
polo, whatever, high end stuff. What's the word for it? Like old money, old money,
Old money.
old money aesthetic. Post old money aesthetic type of vibe posts, TikTok and Instagram. You'll get followers. They'll be in love with the lifestyle and the message that this page represents. As you build the audience, then you can introduce a piece. You could just mimic one of the pics that you posted or one aesthetic pic and just have your piece in there, right? And then little by little, as you gain that audience, you'll start to hint a little bit more of a clothing brand thing, right? This is a long-term game. The long-term game is way more profitable, not just in money, but in success, community, and everything. Because if you're just posting your designs, no one's gonna care, bro. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna be honest. No one's gonna care. Even if design is fire, maybe you'll get a few sales, but they don't know what this brand represents, and they're not gonna stay, right? So it's way better as a clothing brand to start your TikTok, your social medias, just posting lifestyle, like aesthetics and vibes of what the brand's niche is, without being too obvious it's a clothing brand. Then once you gain a somewhat of a following that's always engaging and everything, that's when you can kind of put some product out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's about building the brand first before ever really selling them anything.
Yeah, very much.
For sure.
I made that way longer than it should have been, but I wanted to give like that example of the social media because a lot of people, when I was searching up brands, like how to do this, how to do that, they wouldn't give examples. So I hate when people don't give examples when they're trying to teach something. So
I
I just
agree,
want to
bro.
break it down, boil it down as simple as possible, like step by step, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you answered both of the questions, bro, because like that's the best way they can separate themselves because other people, like you said, are just dropping their designs right away. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be doing that.
No.
Makes sense. All right, bro. So my next question for you is what has been the hardest obstacle in your journey of business so far? Was it this 700 orders or was it something else that you haven't shared yet?
Nah, every day is a struggle. Every day is a struggle. That 700 order thing was a walk in the park, to be honest. I think that brand thing that I just mentioned, really dialing that down every day is pretty hard, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard. And that's something you have to keep up with every day. You have to post every day. You have to make sure everything aligns perfectly. Everything has to be
Mm-hmm.
calculated. So to keep up that brand identity might be the hardest thing long term, because it's something you have to do every day, and it's changing. Social media always changes, algorithms always change. You have to adjust, right? And you have to show up. It's way harder to show up, I think. To post every day, to be active and alert every day with your audience. Everything else is easy. Everything else you can kind of like outsource. When you're really
True.
building a brand that's an extension of you, only you can post. I've hired social media managers in the past. Nobody can replicate what I have in my mind or my vision for the brand. No one can even come close. Doesn't matter how hard I explain it. It's something you feel. You
Yeah.
understand? It's something you
Yeah.
feel. No one can ever replicate it. So that is the hardest thing, because that's the one thing you can't technically outsource. You can outsource email marketing, but you have to keep an eye on it. You have to make sure that everything, they're speaking your language.
Exactly.
But it's easy. You just go edit it, a few words, not a big deal. You can even outsource Facebook ads, for example. I outsource manufacturing. I don't make the clothes myself. I just design them, right?
Yeah.
But to show up and be the authentic brand that the brand is on social media, that is irreplaceable. That is the hardest thing that you have to keep up with every day. That brand identity, social media, customer service. Customer service you could outsource too, but you want to talk to them. You want to be present. You want to know the struggles and the issues firsthand, right? So yeah, keeping up the brand identity is the hardest thing, because it's the thing that you have to do every day, and no one can help you out with it. No one can. I don't want to say no one can help you out with it, but no one can replicate the vision that you have in your mind. Only because it's essentially an extension of the brand's owner, the creator of the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, right? And like people say about, how when they grow their brand or they grow their page, they get someone else to do the
Mm.
content for them and post it for them. Even myself, like I try to post 3 times a day, and like I can't imagine me not doing the posting. Like I don't care how big my account got, like I want to make sure I'm putting out the content that I want and I'm posting what I want to post. I can never imagine giving someone else that authority and letting them do it, because I feel like no matter what, it's always going to separate from what you
Mhm.
truly want to give your audience.
Yeah. And the followers that you like, what? So I made a mistake by hiring this social media manager. They're a great team, but it just wasn't me. And I thought they could. This was before I realized this thing I just told you.
Yeah,
I thought they could replicate it. I thought if I just explained it and showed them examples that they could do it, but they couldn't. They couldn't do it. It wasn't even close. You know.
yeah.
And the people who've been following, the thing is, so the day I hired them and the day they started working, all the followers that I gathered before them, they were in love with the brand already
Hmm.
and with my way of thinking. So, at the same time, in hindsight, I'm thinking, what was the point of all that? What
Like
was the
why
point of hiring
change?
them? Yeah, why
Yeah,
change? So but see, that's something, like, to go back to what we spoke about in the beginning. That's something that you have to be in the fire and you have to experience for yourself firsthand, because no one can like tell you that situation. Who
hmm
I didn't know that. I didn't know until I hired them and realized that they weren't a good fit. Because beforehand I'm like, oh, all right, social media manager. They're the professionals. They know what to do. That's by textbook exactly what it is.
exactly.
But I experienced that firsthand. It's not really something that could work out with me. And yeah, it just didn't work out. That's a lesson. So never
It,
outsource that type of stuff.
yeah, no, I think that's great advice, bro, because it's
Mhm.
like you're saying, it makes what you're trying to post on your brand or your page less authentic.
Yeah, right.
and
Absolutely.
and that's how you separate yourself in the marketplace of social media, because everyone's posting, right? People want to say it's oversaturated, but it's not, because if you bring your own uniqueness to the marketplace, people are going to want to follow you. People are going to want to tune into the
Mhm.
content you have to offer. They're going to want to buy your products. So you need to always keep that authenticity.
Yeah, and that's so funny that you mentioned that. The other day I posted a picture. I forgot if it was a picture or a video. Picture with Allison. You know Alice in Chains, the band?
No.
All right, so they're like a 90s grunge band, right? I'm into music too. I used to play a little bit. So I posted, no one's ever done, I don't think anyone's ever done this, where they put something Christian with something like kind of punk.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I listen to Alice in Chains sometimes, for example. They're like, Nirvana?
I see. Yeah. They're like
Nirvana,
similar type of music.
yeah. It's like just heavy metal, 90s heavy metal type of stuff. So it's cool to listen to in the gym sometimes. But anyway, you know, my me personally, Mario, I listen to Alice in Chains, and I'm a Christian. I put those two things together, and there was someone who commented that they resonated with this collab. They resonated with like this idea, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always best to be yourself in every possible way, you know. Because if I were, I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes I listen to Alice in Chains. Sometimes I listen to Gregorian chants when I'm working out. You know,
Yeah.
like back and forth. Sometimes I listen to those Orthodox Psalm 37 chants that you hear
Yeah,
on TikTok. You know,
exactly. Same here, bro.
I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
I listen to it all.
Yeah.
If I just stuck myself in what I think a Christian should be,
Yeah.
I mean that you know, there's a limit to that, obviously. But we're just talking about music, not, you know, like just metal, whatever. You know, I'm a Catholic. So a lot of Catholics, they're into the metal stuff, you know, like Metallica, or whatever. But none of
Yeah.
the satanic stuff. I don't want to give this wrong impression out there. Anyway, back to the thing. I made this post, a Christian post with Alice in Chains song, and someone resonated with that. That can only be done if you really put yourself out there. Because if I were to be like, oh, this doesn't, you know, on paper is not supposed to match up. You know, let me put a Christian worship song that they sing at those churches, for example. That wouldn't have been me at the time.
Exactly.
It wouldn't really be a resonating thing with others who feel the same way.
I
That's
feel like nothing can be forced, bro. Like
yeah, you can't force.
if that's the type of music you're listening to and you're also worshiping God, if you tie them both in, it's like your experience. It's like someone else out there is relating to that because they do the same thing. It's like you're saying, like listening to Psalm 37 or Psalm 125 in the
Exactly.
gym. Like I do that. So if I do it and you do it, you know there's plenty of other people that do it as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yo, you know what else I've been listening to since it's the Christmas season? Ring Christmas Bells. I don't know if you know that song.
No, I don't.
It they say, you know, Jesus is king. Hold on. If I play it, you'll know it. Hold on.
Oh yeah, this song, yeah.
Heat.
Heat. Listen to it in the gym, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. No joke, no joke. But anyway, but yeah. So the point is, be your authentic self. When you're creating a brand, you're the owner. You're curating a social media. Be yourself, because the brand is an extension of you. People could tell. They could feel it if it's forced or it's faked. So that's the social media manager stuff. All my followers knew that wasn't really me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was in the videos, I was in the pictures, but it wasn't me making those. You know, like creating the videos or
Yeah.
whatever. It wasn't, and that's what I thought. I'm like, this is not me, guys. This is not me at all. I'm sorry. So then I fire them. But it's way better be your authentic self than to fake it, because you can only fake it for so long until it's not even resonating with you.
Yes.
You
And
know,
that's
and
the
you
most
get
important
frustrated, you
thing.
get tired of it.
Yeah.
You know,
If it's not resonating with you, how's it gonna resonate with your audience, right?
yeah, 100%. It's an
Yeah.
extension of you. So those followers that you've gained, they would probably like you as a person too. You guys would all be friends. So just
Yeah.
capitalize on that. Create that community. Continue to be you and post what the extension of you, right?
For
So, yeah.
sure. All right, bro. My next question is what are your goals for the brand in this upcoming year? Are you the type of person that writes down goals and tries to execute them, or is it kind of just like a mental note that I want to be here in a year and I'm gonna do it by doing this?
That's a great question. You know, I really should start writing it down, but it's more of a mental note. It's a mental thing that I have. sometimes I do make notes, but it's not like clear and clear cut. This is my step by step thing. My
Yeah.
main goal, this has been my goal for like 2 years. I want to have some sort of pop up shop in New York, in Manhattan, to really have that face to face interaction with people and to have like an actual physical community. That would be cool. But yeah, I just want to grow the brand and continue doing what I'm doing, create more designs, gather a bigger community, glorify God more. I mean, when in a physical way, the pop up shop would be like a physical long term goal.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
for sure. What do you
You're more than
think?
welcome to pull up, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be sick, bro.
I'll
That'd
do
be
one in
sick.
Canada too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, bro. We could do one in Toronto, bro.
All
That'd be
right,
sick.
I'm there already,
Downtown,
bro.
100%. I think it's like you're saying because you're actually meeting people face to face, and you can kind
Yeah.
of explain like that story you told me of how you got the name Attilius.
Hmm.
You could explain that to the people walking by and the people that are interested. And I think when they hear your story and they hear why you started they'll be able to resonate even deeper because they're seeing your face and you're telling them.
Yeah, yeah, and it's way better. Like Jesus says this: when more than one are gathered in my name, I'm there. Pretty much.
Yeah,
And I think about that a lot. And I think that could really be something. That's a strong, strong thing. And you can only do so much with a community online. If you have a community that's together, really together, face to face, physically in a group, that's really strong, man. You know? And I really seriously want to grow this community. And that would be the next step. It could be anything. It could be a pop-up shop where we're just hanging out, or it could be like a fitness club, a running club. We could be doing anything. It could be,
exactly.
it's just a group that we could even be a community that meets up weekly or once a month or twice a month, and we do different activities. We all go to church together. We all go to the gym together. We run together around Manhattan or whatever. You know?
Yeah, the options are limitless, bro. You could kind
Mhm.
of do anything with that. And I think that'd be cool to be a part of. I know a lot of people, like especially here. Like I know here, bro. I don't know about in New York. I feel like New York might be the same way, but not a lot of people believe in God anymore. Like at
No.
least here. A lot of people are atheists or they're agnostic and they don't really know the story. They know the story of Jesus, but it doesn't resonate with them and they don't allow it to be in their life, right? So being around people that believe in God is such a good thing,
Mhm.
and
Absolutely. It could
especially
be a Bible
especially
study
young
too.
people, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it firsthand, dude. I see it firsthand. A lot of my friends that I used to hang out with a lot before I turned to Christ, they, we've naturally just separated. We're still cool, obviously, but we naturally separate because our values are different now. And
Hmm.
I try to tell them, you know, like I have my friend he's agnostic, right? But I'm patient with him. I try to tell him this, and that. He's like, dude, I'm just not buying it. And I'm like, listen, I'm here if you want to talk. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm not gonna force this down your neck. But
Yeah,
especially now with social, I think everything obviously went south once social media became more prevalent. More of a staple,
hmm,
right? But what are you gonna do? But at the same time, I do think that it's coming back around because I do see a lot more young Christians, especially in the gym. And especially with I don't know if you know Cliff and Stuart Connectly.
yes, I love those guys.
Oh my god, they helped me through when I was doing construction, and it was just I was going through my hard time. I would just pop down. I wouldn't even listen to music. I would listen to Cliff and Stewart on YouTube.
Yeah,
100%.
there's a
I
lot
think.
of great figures that are Christians that are kind of helping people,
Oh
that are
yeah,
like
especially those two.
spreading the message. Yeah,
Those two, they really, really. I mean, I got closer as I was listening to him because he would actually break down questions that they asked him, questions that I would have too,
yes,
and it would really clear the air. So I think it's so weird because I agree with what you're saying that there's not a lot of Christians anymore, but at the same time, I also think that they're coming back up. Like I don't know. I think maybe more are coming back up to Christianity.
Yeah.
Like just like in this year, this past year, maybe more have been turning. But there still are a lot of atheists and atheists and agnostics.
Yeah. But I actually agree with you. Now that you say that,
Mm.
there's more younger people I feel like getting into Christianity on their own accord.
Yeah,
It's not being forced, it's kind of like coming to them, you know? And I think as
especially
bad as
young.
social media is,
Mm.
you got people like Stewart and Cliff and do you know George Janko?
Georgienko. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like all these figures that are kind of resonating with the youth because it's life, bro. Like life suffering in a sense, and you kind of want to find the answer, and then you find the answer with Jesus Christ, and you're able to kind of like once again. I think the biggest thing about Christianity and having faith in God is just being centered to something,
Hmm.
because you get lost in life and you get distracted by many things, and if God is at the center, that is very difficult to happen.
100%. Seriously, 100%. I feel that. And I'm actually really grateful for people like Cliff, Stewart, George Janko, because they for some, I mean, Cliff and Stewart are kind of on the older side. Janko, I think, is more around our age, but they both speak to us as a
Hmm.
younger audience. I think it's because Cliff and Stewart, they're on college campuses, but they speak to the young audience. And the thing is, they're not forceful. Like some preachers might be a little forceful, and it might turn some people off.
Yes.
Or they might not have all, like some preachers might not have all the answers, but it seems like Cliff and Stewart have most of the answers. I know Cliff sometimes says if they ask a really tough question and it's like a question you really don't have an answer to, like you can't even find this answer anywhere, he just says, I have 4 words for you: I do not know. And that honesty actually helps him. Even if he doesn't know the answer, he's completely honest, and you could kind of believe the next answer he does give,
Yes.
because there's evidence for that. If there's no evidence for a certain question, he's going to say, I don't know. And that
Yeah.
honesty is a lot more valuable than some people might think. Even subconsciously, someone might trust him more because of his honesty. And I think that really speaks to, why I think that speaks to this generation is because now we're waking up. We know that we're being lied to by the government, with COVID and everything. There's always some kind of scheme that's being played. So when we see true honesty, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
We kind of really we could really listen to what the next words he has to say. Even as there's some atheists on the on on the college campus that ask him questions, but they're not like screaming in his face. Like they're asking the tough question because they're genuinely interested and
Yeah.
they're actually listening. And I think that's important.
And I think that's why people have trusted faith in those types of people that we're speaking about is because they have that humility. It goes back to
Mhm.
what you were saying about being humble all the time is, they're not trying to act like they know every single thing. They're very knowledgeable, they're very wise, but if they don't have an answer, they're going to tell you they don't have an answer. They're not going to make up some false answer just to seem like know-it-alls, right? Which maybe
Exactly.
other preachers might do.
100%. 110%. I think that really separates them from other preachers is that there's 100% honesty and transparency. And that's what everything that rule right there could be applied to everything. It could be applied to fitness, it could be applied to business. You have to have 100% honesty and transparency to build credibility and trust and true connection with your audience. Because if you try to fake it or you try to pretend like you know all the answers, no one's going to take you seriously because
Yeah,
no one possibly has all the answers. Doesn't matter how much you study, how much experience you have. There's some things that you just do not know, and it's far better to admit that because you come off as honest than to come up with a fake answer and try to get by, try to fool the other person into thinking that you know when you really don't.
exactly.
You know?
100%,
Oh
bro.
yeah.
All right, bro, I got my last question for you. I asked
Oh my
every
god.
single guest this question, and it's Mario, how do you want to be remembered?
Damn, that's a tough question. I want to be remembered as a soldier for God in every sense of the word. That's it. In business, in fitness, in everything. Someone who gives it all to him. Because it doesn't matter what I do, he leads my way. So, just a soldier of God. That's it.
Very well said, bro.
Thank you.
It's definitely a way to go about your life, and it's like you're saying that works in every avenue of your life. It's not just business, it's not just fitness, it's everything.
It's everything. Someone who's humble, works hard, and is honest. As simple as it could get. As simple as it could get, for real. If someone remembers me and they remember a honest, hardworking, humble guy who's devoted to God, that might help them change and to become that version. And there's nothing wrong with being that type of person. Success
Yeah,
comes with that humility, great relationships, and just great things, you know? So that's how I would like to be remembered.
100%. Well said, brother. All right, I'm gonna close it out here. Is there anything you want to say before I close it out, or?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you this, but what made you start the podcast? Like what inspired you to start this?
Exactly. So, bro, to be completely honest with you, I started this in when was it? It was 2023
Mm.
September. I started with two other people, and it was kind of like a fun podcast. You know, we would joke around a lot. We would have some guests. It was kind of centered around self improvement, but you know, it was kind of there was really no purpose in the sense of why we were doing it. You know, and then in April we kind of branched away, and the two other people that I was doing it with no longer wanted to do it because just our goals didn't align. Like I want
Mm.
to see this thing grow. I have a mission with this podcast, and they kind of didn't have that. So now my goal with this podcast and why I'm continuing to do it, bro, is literally just to have conversations like this. Is to have conversations with people that I know can resonate with the audience, that have been through struggles, that have overcome those struggles, and are constantly seeking to be a better person every single day, because that is the kind of life that I want to live. Is I don't want to stop growing until I die. I always think can become a better
Mhm.
man, and I always think I could become more wise, and I could help people no matter what kind of echelon of life I reach. And my goal is to just kind of like have these conversations with people so that others can see that you can improve in your life and you could become a better version of yourself no matter where you started, you know? So that's my goal, bro. Every guest I get on is someone that I would relate to myself. When I see their content, I relate to it myself, and I know that my audience can relate to it as well. And I just get to meet great people like you, bro, you know, that have great stories, that are doing something purposeful with their life, and that not only inspires my audience but
Thank you.
inspires me as well.
That's amazing, dude. That's an amazing answer. And honestly, I think everyone who's similar to us kind of resonates with that. There's always something that could be improved. Always.
Mhm.
In every aspect of the word, your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, every element of your being can be improved in some way. I think that's honestly when that mentality ends, that's when life ends. Because
Mhm.
you just
I
what are you
agree.
gonna do after that? What are you gonna do? If you're always working towards something, that's what's driving you.
Yes.
You know, if you have the mentality of okay, this is it, like I don't have to improve anything else, like that's it. You just died. Like maybe not literally, but mentally. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think. I don't know if you agree with that.
I agree, bro. Like I think every aspect of your life can be improved. You know,
Hmm.
you could become closer to God, your
Hmm.
business can get better, you could have better relationships with your friends and family and your partner. It could always every anything could always get better. And it's not about chasing perfectionism. It's just about becoming the best version of yourself. And what I like about that whole sentence, becoming the best version of yourself, is it doesn't exist. Because in this lifetime, when you die, you still wouldn't have become the best version of yourself. You still would
Yeah,
have, you know, there still would have been so many things you could have improved on. And that's what I love about self-improvement and developing yourself as an individual, is because there's always an area to improve, and that gives your life purpose, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. It's a never-ending race. It's you're always chasing that person, and you're never going to achieve it. But at the same time, it's motivating because
Yes.
there's a possibility that you could get close. Maybe not 100%, but you could get close. And it's always better to get close than to not get close to the finish line. You know what I'm trying to say?
Exactly. And you don't want to live with regret, bro. Like if
Yeah.
there's a certain aspect of yourself that you don't like and you wish was different, you need to make sure that you're pursuing that version of who you want to be, because you don't want to like die one day and regret that, oh, maybe I could have been, a little more emotionally intelligent. Maybe I could have treated others better. If you wake up every single day and you focus on improving just those small aspects of who you
Mhm.
are, you could be proud when you look in the mirror, right?
Exactly. You know what I just thought of? There's always one more book to read. Books never end. You can always learn something, but that doesn't just have to do with books. It can be
Yeah,
anything. That was just a metaphor. But I just thought of it. I thought I'd like to share with you. You might take some value from that.
for sure. And that's why I
There's
look at it
always
too,
something.
especially with reading. It's like you could read a whole 300-page book and maybe you take one thing away from it, but it still would have been worth it.
Mhm. Exactly. And you know what book actually just comes to mind? Have you ever read The Alchemist?
I haven't, but I
Oh
have it
my
on my list to
God.
read, bro.
Are you kidding me? Somebody like you?
Yeah, really,
If
I
I'm
haven't
reading the
read it.
first book.
Nah.
Yeah, you have to, bro. That's like the book. That's
Yeah,
the
wait,
book that got me into self-improvement.
really?
Yeah, yeah. During COVID, you know what? It's a funny thing. We were in high school. We were assigned to read that book, and I didn't like the book. I didn't. I was not interested. I didn't even read past the second page, and I didn't read the book. After high school was After high school, COVID happened for me. Right, so I'm trapped in my house. I'm like, what the hell do I do? I see this book, and I'm like, all right, let me give it a shot. And I've read it 5 times.
It was life
Front to
changing.
back, and I learn something new every single time I read it. It's a great book. It's not maybe not the best book in the whole world, but it's a really great book that if you're interested in self-improvement and finding and chasing that purpose and chasing that ultimate success, whatever that may be for you, me, for someone else who's listening, that book, it's a really good book and it helps. That author is really good. Paulo Coelho, I think that's his name.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of other ones too. Warrior of the Light or The Pilgrimage is a good one, but The Alchemist is my favorite. My favorite book. It's a
I
great
gotta
book.
give it a shot, bro. I have it on my list of books to read, so
Mm.
I'll definitely get to it sometime.
But you have to read it though. I wouldn't recommend doing Audible because you have to be immersed in the book.
I see.
You have to really dude. It's such a great book. I want to hear your thoughts on it after you're done reading it. It's a short book too. It's not a big one, but I want to hear your opinion on it. We got to get back in touch and talk about that book.
For sure, bro. I'm down to do a part two of the podcast, and maybe we could
Yeah, me
have
too.
like a different topic like that, maybe about books or something. I'll give that book a shot. I'll read it, and then maybe we could discuss it on the next podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's your favorite book now?
My favorite book now, honestly,
Like, what you been reading, bro?
right now I'm reading a book called The Pilgrimage Journey, and
Mm.
it's basically about when did like pilgrimages start and how had they changed over like thousands of years.
So it's a
So
history
it's a history book, yeah. So it's pretty cool. I'm like halfway through that,
book.
and then what's it called? I would say maybe my favorite book, even though I haven't read it in a while, and um, I would say it's the first book I actually read front to back, like outside of school. Because school,
Mm.
you had to read books, but on my own personal time was probably Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Dude, I haven't read that book.
No?
I have it. It's just sitting in my shelf. I remember I started it and then I remember I got distracted. Not because the book was boring. I just had to go take care of something and I never got back to it. But
Yeah,
I have
you
to
should read
actually
it,
can you
bro.
give me like 2 minutes. I just gotta use the bathroom real quick. Two
Go ahead,
minutes. I
bro.
just want to finish this thought about that.
No worries,
And
bro. I'll cut that part out because we're still recording.
what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Um,
I think was it about meditations?
no, I actually just still have a question, but I'll ask it later after the meditations thing. So what's your opinion on the book? Because I've had so many friends tell me it's a great book, and I try to read the first 2 pages, and it was a little bit hard to understand. I remember. I'm sure if I
Yeah,
read it now, it'll be better, but at the time, what do you
I
think?
guess like that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people say it's a difficult read in the sense
Mm,
that it's basically his journal, right? So you do not have to read the book like front to back in a sense. You could actually just pick a page and read from a journal entry. So what makes it so interesting to me is you find this man that has all the power in the world, like the emperor of Rome.
Right.
And the amount of humility that he shows, the amount of wisdom that he shows, the amount of care for his people that he shows. He was one of the only like emperors that wasn't tyrannical, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's why I think like imagine learning from this individual. And it's so crazy because he never wrote in that journal for it to be published to the masses and for other people to read it. Like this was him literally writing down his day-to-day events and how he felt and how he dealt with things. And I think
His
you
personal
could take a
thought.
lot away from that, you know?
So he wasn't writing it as a book. He was just writing it as a like an authentic, genuine reflection or journal.
Yes.
And do you know the history of how we found that journal?
I actually don't how we found it.
I gotta look it up. That's probably insane how they found it. But
Y-
it's so crazy. So it's not. I mean, I know it's like a diary, his personal journal, but it's not like it's a day. What is it? It's like day one, day two, day three type of thing. Every day is a new entry, or is it kind of mixed up?
I don't think there's no dates in it. He didn't write dates, but it's
Mm.
entries. So like it'll be like eight. It kind of like the Bible in a sense where it'll be like 18 verse. I mean entry 18 verse 2,
Ah,
and
okay.
you know what I mean. It's like
Mhm.
kind of like that. That's how he wrote it for himself.
That's crazy. So it's basically just a book of his life lessons and experiences, like lessons you can learn from his experiences. I think that's why
Yes.
it's valuable, right?
Yeah, like there's for example, there's like this artistic like there's it's just so artistic the book in a sense like there's this one like what's it called entry where he's speaking about the beauty of how an olive ripes and how bread is baked and
My God,
like and this guy's the like richest man in the world, could have anything he wants, could have thousands of women or whatever, like all these hedonistic things, and yet he's like reflecting on the beauty of how an olive ripes and how bread is baked. Like isn't that crazy
humbleness,
to you?
bro.
Yeah.
Simple life. That's amazing. He really. I think maybe in that moment he was looking at it. He was looking at the bread being baked or an olive tree, and he was just taking it all in, taking a deep breath, and just wow, like the simple essence of life is beautiful. That guy was a
Yeah,
G.
literally, bro, this guy was a G for sure.
I got to read that book, man. I tried like two or three times, and I just couldn't get past the second or third page.
Yeah, I don't blame you because even in the beginning, I think he gives a lot of intentions to certain people. Like he's like, "Oh,
Really?
this is for my brother, or this is for my this," or I can't remember the exact people in his life, but I remember that's like one of the pages where he's just giving out the intentions to like why he's writing the book or writing in his journal to begin with.
Do you think he showed them, or it was kind of like a personal thing that he wrote?
I think it was all personal. I think it was literally just self reflections in the sense, and I also think it goes back to him being centered. Like I think it was a way of him centering himself from all the noise, all these people telling him that he was amazing and he was,
Yeah,
because that gets to your head, and I feel like if you don't have something like that, that's gonna kind of veer you off the path, and that's what happened to the other emperors.
Nero, bro.
Yeah.
Damn. So like, how would you if you were in his shoes and you were writing those intentions down? Like, how would you format it? Like, if things are getting if you fear that things are getting to your head. Sorry, one second.
No worries, bro.
Fear that things are getting to your head. How would you plan that out to like? How is that possible? How could you like? What would you write down to kind of express that to get that out of your system?
I think it's like I keep a journal, and like every single day I'll do an entry,
Mm.
and it's kind of a similar format to his, and it's more just like speaking to myself and try to understand why I feel a certain way, right? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. It's personal, but I don't really care to share
Mm.
it on the podcast. But like the past 2 days before today, I didn't go to the gym, and like I realized like yesterday I was very like irritable and I was very annoyed quick and I was very angry, and I realized to myself, I'm like, if I don't do anything physical on a day-to-day basis, it kind of puts me in a bad mood. So I'm kind of like, I wrote down to myself, like I need to, even if I'm not working out, training extremely hard in the gym, whatever, I always need to do something physical every day to kind of keep my mood in check. right? So that's kind of something I learned over these past 2 days is me just reflecting on that. Like, why do I feel angry and why do I feel so agitated and irritated all the like today? And it was because of that. So I feel like when you're able to kind of feel a certain way, and I guess you'll see this in meditations as well, because I think he has entries like that where he's feeling overwhelmed or whatever the case may be, and he kind of writes it down and goes through it in more of a poetic way than I would do it. And you're able to see him kind of break it down and see why he felt that way or why he reacted in a certain way.
So all that energy really that's built up naturally, if you don't express it out through something like fitness, it comes out as anger. It comes out as something else. It has to come out eventually. It has to come out at some point. That energy has to
Yes.
be unleashed. I get that. And you know what, dude? That reminds me, like the past 6 months, I'm not even gonna lie to you. No, not the past 6 months, maybe the past 3 months. Past 2 or 3 months, I haven't been able to go to the gym or do anything physical. I've been so like I've been literally in front of this computer working for the brand. And I think
Yeah.
that's something honestly that reminds me. And if you want to add this to the podcast, you can. But I think if you're trying to build something, it's really hard to take care of everything else sometimes. And if you don't take a step back and like kind of look at things in a different perspective, you'll lose yourself in a way, and you'll build up that anger because it's a weird thing. But I think that's inevitable. That's what every business. If you're trying to create something, like dude, I'm working late nights, early mornings, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
nonstop. Especially because I'm doing this whole thing by myself. I don't have any partners or helpers at this moment. But it's tough to really organize the rest of your day. Would you say journaling helps to like take that step back and look at things from a different perspective?
Absolutely, bro. I feel
Yeah.
like it's like, sometimes your mind rushes with thoughts
Right.
and certain scenarios or whatever the case may be. If you're able to kind of write that down and kind of dissect your thoughts, it's much less overwhelming when you're dealing with things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I've heard so many like self-improvement people talk about journaling, but I honestly have never tried it. I think maybe once I did try it, but I had never stuck with it. This was like 5 years ago. This was pre-COVID. 5, 6 years ago, I stuck with it for a little bit, but I gotta try that out. Like, how would you format that?
So it's kind of like the
Like,
way
what
I
do I
do it
write
is,
down? Like what do I?
what do you like write down or
Yeah,
okay.
more or less.
It's like, let's say I always try to journal either in the beginning of the day to give
Mhm.
myself an intention for what I want to accomplish or what I want to see through for the day. And I usually start off with like, okay, let's say entry 116. I do a little gratitude towards God for allowing me to write in the journal once again. So I write that every single day and I write that in my own way. And then I kind of just speak about how I'm feeling for the day or what I want to do. It's kind of like, how people will say like, oh, this is a journal prompt you could use. It's kind of like creating my own journal prompt for the day. So it's like, for example, some people could say, how did you feel today? And that's a journal prompt, and you write about that and
Okay.
you kind of dissect your feelings or whatever. But I don't really go off of anything I see. I just go off basically how I felt for the day. Like, did I feel like shit today? Why did I feel like shit today? Is it because, I wasn't on my diet? Was it because I didn't complete the tasks that I wanted to? Was it because I might have treated someone a certain way that I shouldn't have? And it's like, once you're able to kind of dissect those situations, you're able to not make that mistake again. You know what I mean? But if you kind of just have it in your mind and you didn't write it down, I feel as if I forget like right away, like why
Mhm.
that happened and why I felt that way. You know what I mean?
You get lost in
Yes.
translation, lost in the mental. And if you
Yeah.
think about it, a lot of great leaders actually kept a journal,
Yeah, they did.
which is so ironic. I mean, like, it's weird. I mean, not weird, but it's interesting that they all did. I mean, you had, I'm pretty sure, other than Marcus Aurelius, you had, I'm pretty sure Lincoln, right?
Yep. I believe he did. Yeah.
Napoleon. These great people. I forget exactly who, but I know a lot of great people kept the journal. And it's so funny to see. It's like these successful people, as big as they are, that we think they're huge as people, but they also had their own struggles, their own personal struggles that they had to battle with. You know, And a lot of these successful people back in the day had a lot more like they had harder tasks to deal with
Yep.
than we do now. You know, like I'm just
Nothing compared. Yeah.
dude, I'm just running a clothing brand. You know, I'm not trying to, change the world, maybe, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like I'm not fighting a war.
Yes.
I'm not leading an empire. You know, so these people, for them to keep a journal, probably helped them a lot. Now that I'm thinking about it, I never thought about the journal until you brought it up, but it's
I
weird.
think I look at it as like, I like my opinion on therapy is that, some people can benefit from it, maybe others can't. I've never been to therapy, so I can't really say if it's beneficial or not, whatever. But science says it's beneficial, so let's go off of that. But I feel like journaling, in a sense, is just therapy for yourself.
Mm.
Because, like I'm saying, a lot of times you get overwhelmed with thoughts and scenarios and things that are coming into your life. And if you're able to like kind of dissect uh why it is you feel a certain way through that, it's kind of like your own version of therapy. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's kind of like a self-reflecting thing, as opposed to talking to someone about your problems. It's basically just writing them down and seeing it from a different perspective. And I guess that's where it helps with organization of your life,
Yes.
because you see it. You know, because I understand, I get it. When you're just thinking about it, like certain things could get lost. You know,
Yeah.
and the mind is a crazy thing. It's a vast universe up in there sometimes. You know, so I gotta try that out. But what got you started into the whole self improvement thing? Because I've seen your content, you're like really into it, like really.
Yeah.
You know, I actually
Yes.
take inspiration from that, dude.
Th-
So
Thank you, bro. I
you know
appreciate
that
it.
you're inspiring people for real.
Thank you, bro. I think the biggest thing, bro, to be honest with you, is like it's the simple fact, and I've said this in videos before, is like just looking at yourself in the mirror and like realizing that you're not who you want to be. You know,
So I'm saying, was
it's
there an actual point in time where, I mean, you don't have to speak about it if you don't want to, if it's personal, whatever. But was there a situation that happened or a realization of some sort that was like, okay, something's got to change within me. I
yeah,
can't be this person anymore. You
yeah.
know?
I think it was like a multitude of things. Like there was a bunch of different aspects of like, that kind of built my love for self improvement. For
Hmm.
example, like one of them was a relationship that didn't go well, and you learn a lot from those things, and you realize like, it was mostly your fault, and it was certain actions that you did that you could have done differently.
Right.
Then it was also like reflecting on who I was when I was younger. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Like when I was a kid, I was like a piece of shit.
Oh
Like
my God.
the the way I
Me
would
too.
treat the way I would treat others, like I'm not proud of it.
Hmm.
And seeing that as well. And it's kind of like it's a very vulnerable thing, but it's like I'm saying, like you kind of see these aspects of who you are, and you're like, damn, like I actually don't like who I am. And I think that's the biggest way to change your life is like seeing the things that you've done and the mistakes you've made and maybe how you've treated others in like in a poor way and being like I can't be like this no more, you know? And I think that's just the biggest realization I had is looking in the mirror and being like, damn, I actually don't like who I am. I need to make a change or else nothing's going to change, you know?
Was it like a one day thing where you just woke up and you were like, this is it now? Or was it an accumulation of days where you thought about it, but you didn't know how to put it into action?
Yes, that's a good question. So it was more like, for example, the biggest
Hmm.
turn I had was COVID. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID put me in solitude and it gave me a lot of time to think. And in that time to think, I reflected on who I was and it built off of that, right? So, for example, like I discovered stoicism first before, like, because I grew up Catholic as well,
Cool.
but I kind of never really believed in the sense that like I like I took my communion, I did my confirmation, I like would go to church only when I had to. I didn't really feel a connection with God. So first it started with stoicism, and then I kind of discovered stoicism. I was reading Marcus Aurelius Seneca, and then I got into a relationship, and in that relationship it didn't go well. And then after that, that's kind of when I like started journaling. I started reading more, and I started discovering self improvement, like really locking in on the gym. But then it's never enough, bro. Like
Right.
that was building my character, But then the next thing that happened was God. And I remember that it was weird, bro. It was like November of, I believe, 2022. And I just like had this weird feeling that like, oh, I want to start going to church. And it just came out of nowhere. Like I can't
Oh my
explain.
God.
It wasn't a video I watched. It wasn't someone that told me something. It was just out of nowhere, like waking up one day and being like, I want to start going to church. And it's funny because my best friend actually had that same feeling, the same like time. So like I think it was him or it was me that texted him, and I just said like, "Hey, bro, you want to go to church?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've been thinking I want to go too." And we just started
No,
going to church. You know,
that's the Holy Spirit, bro.
it
That's
has to be, bro. You know, because there was no other underlining reason for me wanting to go. You know, I was already improving my life. I was already improving my mindset, but it still didn't feel like
it
enough.
wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Dude, I had a similar situation. So before COVID, I forgot exactly what happened. It was I just started college, right? And it was so weird because I went to a college where I didn't know anybody at the time. Like in high school, I was the man. You know, like I was on the soccer varsity team. I was popular. I had mad friends. So when I got into college, it was kind of like a wake up call. I was like, wow, like I don't know anybody, you know, whatever. So then I forget the exact moment where I was like, all right, I gotta improve myself. But it was I don't know if you know Elijah Long something. He's a
No.
YouTuber. Elijah Long, that's his name. He's a YouTuber that I was on. I remember I was in the school library and I was on my computer and I was on YouTube and his video just popped up. And I was like, all right, I don't know this guy, but I think the name of the video was something self improvement. And I was listening to it and I was like, wow, like this is like I want this, you know, I want whatever he's talking about. And that's when I started, dude. I started with like the simple things, cold shower.
Mm-hmm.
If you try that,
Yeah, I've done that. Like to
it's
be honest with you, bro, I'm not consistent, but I've done it
oh my
before.
god, bro. I just started again. I took a break. I just started again. Insane. So I started with cold showers. I started with meditating, um, like optimizing testosterone, whatever, all that stuff, supplements, working out, reading too. But this was before I was really close to God, and I felt that same thing that you felt. It's like it was good for a little while, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't enough. You know,
Yes.
it was good for a little bit in the beginning, but there was still something like it didn't feel fulfilling.
Yeah.
Something missing. It kind of almost felt like I was doing like the wrong things, but at the same time the right things. It was like a good first step, but it was like there's something deeper, you know. And I was meditating. This was, dude. I'm telling you, like I was raised Catholic, but you know, college I wasn't. I'm telling you, I was a lukewarm. Like I wasn't praying. I wasn't reading my Bible. I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't going to church. And I was meditating. Like, you know, you just sit in silence and just focus on your
Breathe. Yeah.
breathing. I
Yeah.
mean, it worked for a little bit, but it wasn't enough. And then COVID hit. COVID hit, and that's when I got super serious with the self improvement. I'm talking about, bro. Like at the time, I was playing soccer, right? I would train in my basement, like dribbling between cones in my basement, day in day out, working out, reading, literally everything. One day I woke up. I think it was one day I woke up at like 3 in the morning randomly, and I just had this urge to read my Bible. Serious. I'm telling you, it's a similar thing to you. It was just I didn't see anything online. It was just a feeling. I
Yeah.
woke up at 3 in the morning, and if you look that up now, it's like something. I forgot the name of it, but God wakes certain people up at 3 in the morning to like pray or whatever. So whenever I wake up randomly now, I just read my Bible and pray, and it's a weird thing. You have to look into that. But I just woke up randomly, started reading my Bible, and I read into dude from 3 a.m. up until like 6 or 7 a.m. I was just in my
Wow.
room reading, reading, and just sitting there like reflecting. And that's when I got closer to God. I was still lukewarm, but I was being introduced to that world again.
Yeah.
And at the time, you couldn't go to church because of the whole restriction stuff and you know all the bull. So all I had was my Bible. All I had was my Bible, and I would pray. And then COVID died down, and then people started to go back out again. And then you know I wasn't reading my Bible because now I was out. I was distracted. Whatever. I was focused on me, which is not real. It's not. You can't do that. You know, you can't just forget about God. You know.
Yeah,
So then,
exactly.
2 years went by because COVID ended like 2021, I think, or yeah, 2021, something like that. 2021, 2022. When I started the brand, like I said, I was still lukewarm, so it wasn't a Christian brand. That wasn't like my first thought. It was a self-improvement stoicism brand. Like, Sobra?
Sobra, no.
You don't know Sobra?
No.
You gotta look him up. He's not like, I don't think he's like super Christian, but he's big into like the esoteric world, raw milk,
Oh,
that
I
kind of
see.
raw
Yeah.
milk, meditating, all that. So I found his page during COVID, and I started like taking note of what he would do or what he would recommend, and I would try it. And it was good, but like I said, it still wasn't enough. So then when I started the brand with that mentality of esoteric stoicism, that kind of stuff, self improvement. It wasn't anything with God. And then that whole year, it was like wake up call after reality check. Like a few months after, I think it was like a month or two after I started the brand, I had like this personal thing happen where, like, at the time, really, really hurt my ego, which egos, it's good and it's bad in certain situations, but this really hurt my confidence. What happened? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to get into it right now. It's a whole different thing. And
Yeah,
also, at
fair
the same
enough.
time, I lost my best friend, so that was like a huge hit at the time, a random hit. So after that, I was kind of in a dark place. I was also like in my senior, I think junior or senior year of college. I forget. I think junior, and I was focusing on my grades and I was working a lot. I was studying a lot. I was in this dark place, and nothing worked. Meditating didn't work anymore. Cold showers didn't work anymore. None of the stuff worked. So I just kept at it. I was in this dark place for a little while, and then uh, if this was for a long time, up until 20 October 2023, when I really got close to God. This was August, September, October is when I really made a huge shift towards God. That's when the
Mm-hmm.
construction thing happened, where I had to quit soccer and you know and work construction full time, which is a great job. I would recommend trying it out. It really builds character. But through that suffering and the struggle, the job wasn't a nice job. It wasn't. It was really hard labor, like long hours, like 12-hour shifts. It was insane. But that helped me out. It got me closer to God. And now, today, I'm combining all that self-improvement stuff that I learned. I'm taking out the meditation stuff. I mean, meditating is good, but if you do it with God in mind, it's even better. But if you're just doing it like, you know, how like some people, they meditate, they do astrology and the crystals and all that.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't.
where that's where I disagree with it, bro. Like, to be honest
Yeah,
with you, I meditate every day, but there's nothing I'm worshiping, or there's nothing
yeah,
besides anything that is on my mind. Like, I'm literally just focusing on my breath, and I don't just meditate, I pray as well. So I feel like that's where the line is blurred, is like when you start worshiping something else, or you believe in
yeah.
the crystals affecting your life. Like, I think that's,
Yeah, I'm not saying I knew something, like, even before I was like even closer to Christ as I am now. I always knew something was up with that side, you know,
yes.
and I never really interested or ever got involved with like tarot cards, and I don't know. It wasn't me. So basically, if you combine the self improvement stuff with God in mind, that's really where fulfillment comes into place,
Yeah.
because that's the missing link. Because I'm telling you, dude, I've tried it all, everything: cold showers, semen retention, all that, everything. But it was like that one thing, which was God, that really brought everything together.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of these people, they kind of veer off, and they're kind of led astray, because they might get into the self improvement, but then they might get into tarot cards, or like uh the occult of some sort, crystals, manifesting, all that. It's a weird thing. It's such a, like, a fine line between good and evil,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like such a, I don't know if you agree or not, but
The way I look at it too, bro, is like, I feel like that the people that get into that, and maybe it's controversial or whatever it might sound like, I think they're just looking for an answer.
true.
They're lost, and they think that's the answer. Like, they think if they manifest hard enough, or if they have these crystals that, a love seeking crystal or whatever, they'll find love. So in kind of a way, I think it's just they're trying to discover themselves and they're trying to discover the truth. And maybe they're just picking the wrong vehicle to seek that truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they might get what they want, but it's not from God.
Yes.
And that's where things get destroyed at some point.
Yeah.
Because you might get whatever you're manifesting, but it's not from God, dude.
Yeah.
That thing might not work. That thing 100% won't work out long term, and it won't lead you down a good path. So that's why I think people should really be careful. I mean, if you're atheist, you're atheist, whatever. You have everyone's entitled to their own opinions. But if you're going to go on the self improvement, it'd be wise to look into how you can combine that with God.
Mm-hmm.
You might be given things that aren't up from God. Like it could be a relationship, or it could be success, it could be whatever. But it's somewhere down the line, it's not going to work out, or it's going to bite you in the ass at some point.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't think of a certain situation right now where that's happened to me, but I'm sure it has, and I'm just not remembering. But I think, dude, that's valuable to take into consideration. You could apply all the self-improvement stuff you want, but without God, you might get what you want, but at some point, it's not going to last forever. It's not going to be fulfilling, and it might bite you back in some way.
One
Like
of what's
so
one of
weird.
what's crazy, bro, is like what we're speaking about, how the journey of self improvement and it not feeling fulfilling. A lot of
Mm.
the people I've spoken to on the podcast and a lot of people online I've noticed is they're kind of going through that same thing. First, it's the business or the gym. They find that they want to improve that. Then it's, improving their knowledge. They start reading. Then they start doing things that strengthens their mindset. But it all eventually leads to God. Like, shout out to Casey. I had her on the podcast not too long ago,
Mm.
and her journey was similar to that. She was in the gym, she was improving her life, whatever. She was in university, but then she discovered God, and everything changed. And she's more content. She's more happy. She's more grateful. She lives a more fulfilled life. And I think that's a lot of people's journey, bro. Is like they've discovered self improvement in the small little things like fitness, business, mindset, whatever, and then God enters their life because they see that those things aren't truly fulfilling.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And it never will be without God. I mean, even if someone's agnostic or an atheist and they don't realize this, they might go through that self-improvement stuff and they might feel like it's not really fulfilling or there's something missing. And unfortunately, they might not realize that it's God, you know?
Yeah,
So
they,
if they're going to listen to this, I hope they realize that it might be wise to take into consideration that you have to involve God in your life in every aspect. Whether you believe it or not, the truth is the truth,
yeah,
and that's the bottom line. Self improvement can only work if you involve God. I wish I realized this when I was younger. I'd be like miles ahead, but everything happens for a
exactly.
reason, right? You
Yeah,
learn things for a reason at that specific time. You can never understand it, only God understands it. But the reason why you learned that pivotal information at that point in time was for a bigger purpose than you can realize. So that's why I'm saying like that ties into something else, like regret. Like I just
mm-hmm.
said, I wish I learned this a while back. I'm regretting that I didn't dial into this a while back. But also regret is it's not of God.
It's
If you
not.
think about it, it's not of God. Regret is a negative feeling, you know? It's not of God. Satan is reminding you of those things to make you feel bad. But
Yes,
God put things in place and in the path ahead of you. For everything is calculated, bro. Every single thing is calculated. God calculates every single nothing is left uncalculated. So even us having this conversation today instead of yesterday or the day before was for a bigger purpose that we might not realize right now. We might not ever realize it, but it serves a bigger purpose because God is the ultimate planner, you
yep,
know? So that's what I'm saying. Like that ties into everything too, like regret and literally every aspect of your life. Everything is calculated accordingly, even if you don't understand it in this moment. So like Casey, like you said, she had the same similar situation where she
yeah.
found God later on and things worked out better.
Yeah, like she was already in the gym, she was already improving herself in other aspects, but then God was that thing that like completely changed her life.
And it had to be at that specific moment where she realized that for it to work out,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that's
Yeah,
also an interesting thing. Like everything really does happen for a reason. Nothing is really coincidence, you know? An
yeah,
atheist might think so, but as a Christian, you realize that nothing's really just by chance. It's all calculated.
yeah. I 100% don't believe in coincidences, bro. Everything has a purpose, everything has a reason.
Yeah,
It's it's like
100%.
it's like it's said in the Bible. I don't know where it's said. I'm not too good with remembering scripture, but it's like, God has a reason for what he's doing to you. You just don't realize it yet.
No,
You know
you
what I
don't.
mean? You don't.
And you might never will, dude. You might never realize it until you're on the other side and
And
you
he
can speak
explains
to
it.
it. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Deep talks, bro.
Yeah, bro. I love this podcast. I think the viewers will take a lot from it. We spoke about many different things that I think will be applicable to their life, and I appreciate you for coming on, bro. It means a lot.
Wait, dude, I got one more question. I know you got to
Okay.
go, but I've been curious about this.
Yeah.
Wait, it just left me. Hold on.
No worries, bro.
Give me 1 second. Oh, okay, okay. Where do you see this podcast long term? Like, what is your goal with this podcast? Because it's very interesting. Not everyone. I mean, it seems like at the same time everyone has a podcast, but not everyone can stick with it. You know. And you said you started this in when did you start this podcast?
September 2023.
2023. It's
Yeah.
been a long time so far. I mean, even in the grand scheme of things, it might not be a long time, but you've been consistent. So what is you obviously have a long-term goal here. So what is your ultimate dream for this podcast? Like what do you want to see this podcast become? And is this your only avenue of let's say success or whatever? Like what are you working on?
Yeah, so I would say it's not my only avenue for success that I want to see through. Like right now, I got a cleaning business with my brother. That's
Cool.
doing really well. I want to start coaching people in fitness. And then with this, the goal, to be honest with you, bro, like I think it's just to have more conversations. I don't really have like a massive goal of what I want to do. I think one thing that I guess is for myself, which is I guess kind of selfish, but I'm being honest, is that like I would love to like start traveling, like be able to afford to travel and actually meet with guests in person, set up a nice studio and have these conversations face to face. I would say that's a big long-term goal
Mhm.
of mine. And I guess if I were to say for the next year is just to I have a goal written down on my whiteboard over there. It's to post 200 podcasts next year. So that's going to be 4 episodes a week. So
Holy.
I'm trying to change my mindset, bro, from the results to the work, you know? So that's something my mentors taught me a lot of, like focus on the input, not what's going to happen from that input. So my goal now, bro, is just to have a bunch of new guests on that are cool people to talk to that could relate to the audience that are on the same self-improvement journey that we're all on, and to just post as much content as I can, and hopefully people resonate from it and it grows. This is one of those things, bro. If I didn't make money from it for 10 years, I would still do it.
Wow, that's amazing. Because some
And
people really are in it for the money, you know? And they
yeah,
forget
and
about the work they have to put in.
exactly. And people don't believe me when I say that, but where, where's this is the proof. Like I've been doing it for a year and 3 months. I
How
haven't
many
made it down.
episodes so far?
So this one I have like 60, but
Okay.
like I said before, I used to do it with some friends and that's
Mhm.
was in September. So that one too, probably another 60 to 70. So I've done like 120, 130 episodes. So, like if I wanted to quit because I see no results, I would have quit a long time ago. You know what I mean?
True, 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 true. But what drives you every day to like set this up, organize it? Like, is it that goal of being able to travel? Are you always thinking about that, or is there something else that's driving you to like get up every day and take care of what you have to take care of with this organizing a podcast, sitting here talking with people? Like, is there a separate everyday force that moves you?
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro.
Yeah.
That's something I'm gonna need a journal about because I honestly don't know. Like, I
Mm,
just wake up and I think about the podcast and I want to do episodes with people that I'm DMing and stuff, and
right.
then I want to create my own solo episodes. There's really nothing that's like overreaching or like above me that's telling me, it's God in a way. Maybe God's speaking to me and I just can't realize what kind of seeds he's planting in my mind. But I just like doing it. I think that's like the simplest way to put it, bro, is I just like doing it. Like we had a 2 hour conversation today and I enjoyed every second of it. And when I have these conversations with people that I've never met, it makes me want to do it more. I've never had a bad experience, bro. I've never had a bad experience with a guest where like they came on and it was dry and it was boring and I
It's
didn't
always
learn
interesting.
anything. It's always interesting. So I feel like that's what kind of gives me the juice to keep going, is like I had this great conversation with you and I know I'm going to have a great conversation with someone else, and I guess I just look forward to that.
So it's not really something that you're thinking about getting in, like in the end result, like you said. You're more focused about putting in that everyday work simply because you enjoy it. It's not
Yeah.
really like, okay, I have to get paid, or I have to be famous, or I have no, you just simply would enjoy it.
Yeah, like
That's it.
that's it's funny you say that cuz now that I realize it's literally just that, like it's a passion project. Like that's the definition of what this is a passion project. It's like I literally just like doing it. Like I'll keep doing it just because I like doing it. There's no other reason. Like with the cleaning
Right,
business I'm
right.
doing, with everything else that I got going on, it's like, oh, I want to make money from this. I want to like, build a business or whatever. But this is kind of just like, bro, I like doing this. I'll just keep doing it. Like
That's
I
awesome, bro.
literally I don't think I could quit.
No, no, because it's like a really passionate hobby.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's no pressure. It's just you really like doing it. No, that's awesome, bro. That's like me with soccer right now. Like I don't play. I'm not a pro anymore, but I still play from time to time as like pickup because it's just fun. Like I don't care if I get paid.
Yeah.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. Is there any other like endeavor you'd be interested in? Like, would you ever start a clothing brand, for example, or any other like something
I've thought about it, and
like
like
maybe write a book,
I
Meditations Part Two?
sorry.
No, I'm saying maybe write a book, Meditations Part Two.
I think that's definitely something I'd want to do in the future. Like if I'm
Seriously?
like writing a book like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, like once, because the way I look at my 20s now, bro, is like building my character. I want to
Right, right.
build skills. I want to become the man that I know I can
Mhm.
become. And then once that's completed, not completed, but I've gotten to the point where I feel like fulfilled, I want to show other people how to do that. So I think that's
Absolutely.
a really good idea. It's like a book.
What kind of book would it be? Like a self improvement book?
I feel like it would be something along the lines of that, but with my own twist. And maybe God's already planting that seed with me journaling every day, and maybe I take inspiration from that when I do decide to write a book.
Dude, that's amazing. So how would you want to be remembered? I know you asked me this before, but I'm curious. Like you've said so much, so many inspiring things so far. I'm just curious. Like, how would you want to be remembered?
I literally think, bro, that I want to be remembered as someone that you could see like their situation and where they came from, and you could have hope in the sense that your life can be improved and you could become a better person. I think that's literally it, because I feel like a lot of people, they have that victim mindset, that defeatist
Mhm.
mindset, that
Yeah,
where they are right now is going to be who they're going to be and they just accept it. I want to be that light that shows you
that
that you
hope.
could become whoever you want to become and you could achieve whatever you want to achieve, whatever that means to you, you know?
Wow, that's amazing. That's like that underdog story with Attilis. And honestly, that's like with King Baldwin too. I don't know if you researched King Baldwin, but dude became he didn't have his parents with him. He became king at 13, and he had leprosy, bro. Which at the
Yeah.
time was like insane. Like there's no coming back from that. But at the age of 16, he won the Battle of Montesgrad, leading 4,000 Crusaders against 30,000 of Saladin's warriors. Making Saladin this is dude. It's the exact same story over and over again. Saladin was a veteran champion, like a really successful leader. Baldwin was like a rookie who was deemed harmless, too young, underestimated, just like Attilius. They both came up, bro. They both came up. He made Baldwin made Saladin flee back to Damascus with 1/10 of his army left.
Wow.
That's when he got his name out there. He was
Yeah.
respected by his peers and his enemies. But the most important thing is that he was inspiring to people because despite his struggle, he had a really bad struggle. Despite his struggle, he didn't turn his back away from God. I know a lot of people, they go through some things and they just automatically blame God, you know?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they're just like, why me? Why me? Why me? Like, bro, that's not how the world works. It's not like God's picking on you. It could be that he's using you as an example, or it could just be a random thing. I Cliff says it all the time. It's like, why do bad things happen to good people? We live in a messed up world, unfortunately, but it's how you handle those situations. That's what defines you. So
Yeah.
Baldwin could have just gave up, bro, when he found out he had leprosy. The dude had to retrain, like the way people rode horses back then. He had to adjust to that because he was losing the nerves in his limbs. There was a point where he couldn't even move his arms or his legs. He had to be carried from place to place. Dude learned how to ride a horse using just his knees, and with the other hand, he had a sword, and he would lead the charge. It's insane. So with the situations that you're facing now, because everyone has their own personal struggle, with those struggles, how are you using that to your advantage in a way? How are you using that to inspire people? And instead of
Mm-hmm.
turning your back against God, how are you glorifying God through that? Like, God, thank you actually for giving me this and letting me come out stronger on the other side and inspiring others along the way. So that's why people respected Baldwin at the time. It's because he had like a crazy amount of struggle, leprosy, orphan, young king, but he used that to his advantage. He didn't
Yeah.
let that beat him away. Dude, there's some people like who have, God bless for this, but some people who have worse struggles that really don't really mean anything and they just give up.
Yeah.
Or maybe because it's just too hard. They can't stick to the gym because it's too hard, you know? I mean, I was a victim of that, but you can't just give up. So everyone has their own underdog story, underdog to hero story. And everyone ironically starts here, bro. And you
Yeah.
could either stay here or you could get up here. It depends on how you handle the situation. And
Exactly.
I just thought I'd share that because every successful person, literally, bro, every successful person, whether it's a king or a business owner or somebody or whatever, they always started at the same spot. They always start here. But everyone has the same 24 hours in the day. Everyone has the same feelings, more or less. How do you handle that and get up here?
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like that's what separates greatness from being a loser, right?
Pretty much.
We're in a sense we're all kind of losers to start. Like
Yeah.
you're a loser in the gym because you don't know what you're doing. You're a loser in business because you're so confused on where to go and how to make it work. But it's what you do after that once you realize that, because that's the thing. I feel like a lot of young people too, they want success very quickly, but they need to realize that like you're nothing. Like you need to earn that success. You can't just have it, right? And that's where I kind of look at myself, and that's where I kind of pull my humility from. It's like I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, I'm only 20. I'm 20 years old. I have a whole life ahead of me. If I don't have what I want to have right now, I don't care, because I know in 5, 10 years, if I grind, if I focus and I don't veer off my path, I will have those things and I will be able to inspire those people. So I don't care to wait. And I think that's a perspective everyone needs to hold.
Yeah, no one's patient anymore. And I think the cause of that is social media. Because
Yeah.
even I have a tendency to see other people ahead of me and be like, why can't I have this now? Like, what am I doing? But it's not even that you're doing things wrong. It's just that's just how things go. These
Hmm.
people probably worked in it longer. But just because you're seeing the success now and not seeing the struggle that they went through, you know, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. But I think people have, especially young people, they have a tendency to compare themselves a lot, because of what they see on social media. I think you have to take that into consideration that not everything you see on social media is the truth or it's the whole thing. No one's ever really gonna post their struggles.
Yeah.
Maybe now it's different because now that's what's hot right now on social media when you post the founder's story and the struggle. But before, like last year, 2 years ago, no one was really doing that. So everyone was posting their success, how much money they made, what they have, the cars they're driving. No one's really posting what that person did to get there.
Yeah.
The late nights, early mornings, the struggle, the the times where you're thinking if it's all worth it, or everyone has their own thing, dude. So I think if you just think about not comparing yourself, which is hard, it's easier said than done. But if you just don't get jealous and think that these people just have it easier, I think you'll get a lot further, because you have to realize, everyone has to realize at some point that if you really want to strive for greatness, you're going to have to struggle and suffer a lot.
Yeah.
But there's some people who make it out of that and succeed, and there's some people who don't make it out of that and just give up. So it's either you got it or you don't got it, you know? So I
Yeah.
hope if someone listens to this when you post it and they take something away, I hope they take away that you either got it or you don't got it, in a sense that your mentality will help you. God will put struggles in front of you, but at the same time, you have free will. You have to make the right decisions. Will you continue to struggle and to suffer in order to succeed, or will you just give up? Will you fold? You know?
Very
There's
well said, bro.
there's the people who fold and people who succeed. Both of those people have the same 24 hours in the day. They both started at level one. One just made better decisions, was patient, and knew that despite the struggle and the suffering, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. Always. There'll always be a light there. As long as you stick on the path, if you stick with the path that God made for you and you don't veer off, you will get there. But there's some people who just give up, unfortunately. But unfortunately, you have to have people that will give up to define the people who don't give up.
Yes.
Because then success is invaluable. It's not valuable if everyone just succeeds, because it's just a regular thing. So unfortunately, that's how the world works. You have to have winners and you have to have losers. Which one will you be is up to you. It's not up
Yeah.
to anyone else. Everyone has the same opportunities. I mean, dude, we're living in nearly 2025. And almost everyone has an iPhone or a Wi-Fi connection 24 hours in the day. I mean, obviously situations are different, obviously, if we're going to talk specifics, but for the average person, it's the same. Your
Yes.
mentality will help you and determine whether you succeed or whether you fail. So, I mean, that's what I have to say about that. A little rant, but it's more or less it,
No,
you
for
know?
sure, bro. I think that's a good place to close it out because then people can reflect on what you just
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
say. You know
We've
what
been
I
on
mean?
for way longer than expected. This is a great conversation, though. I could do this all day.
Yeah, bro, it's worth it. Like when the conversation's flowing and there's it's not like anything's running out to talk about, why stop it, you know?
It's almost better because we stopped the questions, I think, an hour in. And I
Yeah,
think the
we did.
podcast got better when we started freestyling a little bit.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed. Sometimes the questions bring structure to the podcast because
Mm.
like I said before, like I don't
No,
know
it's
the
good. I
person
like it.
I'm
Yeah.
speaking to. But then once you kind of get to know them, you can kind of ask questions. Like you were asking me a lot of questions, which, to be honest with you, many other people don't really do. Most of
Really?
the time, yeah, most of the time, to be honest with you, it's very like interview style. Someone maybe will reply with something, and I'll ask them my own question that I didn't have written down. But you
Hmm.
actually asked me a lot about myself, which I appreciate, bro.
And that just reminds me of one more question, dude. I know you got to go. I got to go too, dude. I'm running late, but I'm just curious about this. How do you formulate your questions when you're speaking to people? Do you study them? And is it a general set of questions that you just like minorly tweak?
No, so what I do, bro, is like all like creativity in the sense. So like
Hmm.
I will search, like for example, you, like I already kind of had an understanding of what you did in the brand because I'm a part of it. But let's say someone else that I kind of DM'd, I like their content, whatever. Once I know that the date is secured and we're
Hmm.
gonna do the podcast, I'll basically just watch all their content, and based off of what I see, I come up with questions of what I'm curious about.
Okay.
That's what I always do, bro. Is like what I'm curious about, I ask. I don't ask a question that I wouldn't care about, because then it goes back to that whole point of being fake and not authentic. It's
Yeah,
like if there's something I want to ask, like the questions about the brand, for example, that I was asking in the beginning, like those are genuine questions that I'm curious about because I'm starting to love business and I want to, if I can understand the clothing business, why not? You know?
absolutely. So they're not just general questions. Like you're actually you're curious and you study the brand. I mean, you and I, we've worked together for a little bit already, so you already know what Attilis is about and all that. So, but for someone who you just DM'd, like, how's it look? You study their social media. You kind of just
Yeah.
get an understanding of what they're about, and then you're just curious about that industry that they're in and
Yes.
what they do for it.
Exactly, bro. Like it's literally like complete creativity. Like the
That's
only
all.
questions that are the same are the
Mm.
first question when I ask them to introduce themselves and explain what they do, and then the last question with how do you want to be remembered. Those are like the two staples, and then everything in between that is kind of through just inspiration of watching their content.
That's awesome, dude. You have a really great format.
Thank you, bro.
Honestly, that's such an amazing thing because I've seen other podcasts and they're not nearly as like organized as you. Like I have to say,
Thank you,
you know.
bro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Especially with that first and last question, because I think I saw a clip of Casey's interview. I think you asked her that last question, and I think, dude, that's really good for branding. That is
Yeah.
like your thing. How do you want to be remembered? I haven't seen any other podcast mention that. I don't know if maybe I'm just not watching enough podcasts or whatever, but I think that's really good, bro. Keep it up, seriously. That's so interesting.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Sure, for sure.
All right, bro. I'm gonna close it
All
out here. To everyone watching,
right.
I want to say thank you to Mario for hopping on and having this amazing conversation.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Hopefully, you guys took some inspiration and some applicable wisdom that we shared that you could apply to your own life. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, remember to like, comment, subscribe. Also, check out Attilis Apparel on Instagram. You go to the website, check out the clothes, see if you like anything, and maybe place an order. But we're going to close it out here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Take it easy.